Have you ever heard that going into business with family is a recipe for disaster? Well, get ready to throw that stereotype right out the window. Today, we're diving into the story of a powerhouse, female-founded digital media and advertising company that's smashing the mold. Two unstoppable sisters took the leap, purchased their family's business, and in just 4 short years, they not only doubled its size, but they grew closer than ever. You won't want to miss this inspiring story of family, resilience, and success right here on the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast.
Are you a strong, independent woman who's passionate about her career? Then this podcast is perfect for you. Based on her book, The Career Woman's Secret Playbook, career coach Dr. Dawn Hamby shares the kind of insider secrets you can only know if you've hired, fired, and promoted employees over the past 30 years.
Ladies, I'm on a mission to help busy women just like you create a career and life you love without sacrificing your work-life balance to get it. Come join me as we inspire and motivate each other only as women can and have lots of fun along the way.
With Dr. Dawn's tools, strategies, and action steps, you can unleash your personal and professional power in a whole new way. Here's today's episode.
Welcome, everyone, to the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Hamby, and today's episode is so special. This is another episode in our series called Our Monthly Motivation. We offer this each and every month to highlight and showcase women who are really making a difference in business and in their communities. I have invited women that I personally know, that I really admire, that I believe have a unique story to share with our audience. So I am so excited to tell you a little bit more about our guest today. I am thrilled to introduce you to two sisters today, Devon and Kristin McCrossin. They're from the Boomtown Internet Group. This is a full-service digital marketing and advertising agency that also offers a variety of website design services. What makes Boomtown unique is not only have they been in business for over 20 years, but this is a company that's actually female-founded and family-owned. Now, they say working with family can be difficult, but I believe that Devon and Kristin are really breaking barriers. They're proving those naysayers wrong when they say that it's tough to work with family. So I am thrilled to introduce you to them today. I'm going to invite them now into our episode. They are waiting backstage in our online studio. So let's go ahead and welcome our guest today. All right, welcome, ladies. Welcome, Kristin and Devon. I just gave an introduction. Not sure if you could hear it backstage. Probably not. But telling our audience that we are just so excited that you're here. Ladies, they are joining us from Pennsylvania. Gotta love technology that they're able to join us today for another episode of the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. Now, ladies, what I just mentioned to the audience is that this is part of our monthly motivation series, and we have not interviewed any guests yet that are working together as family. So I mentioned in the intro that these are two sisters that are proving naysayers wrong when they say you shouldn't work with family, because I think you guys are breaking barriers in the sense that you're not only working for a company that's female-owned and family-run, but has that many years of experience. So I'm excited you're here and you can share your story with us today.
Thanks for having us, Dawn. Can't wait.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for having us. And hi to all the ladies out there.
That's right, ladies. We're lucky to have Kristin and Devon today. Now, you might notice I mentioned the name of their company. You guys, I didn't even think about this till a second ago. I love the fact that together, the Boomtown Internet Group, right, is big. I love that the acronym is actually big, right? So they're doing big things, and we cannot wait for you guys to tell us a little bit more. Okay, ladies, so when we do our interviews, we always start with asking you guys to share a little bit about your story, about how you decided to get into the business that you're in. But before we get to your actual journey, I'm going to put my trusty readers on. So the audience, guys, when you're watching this on YouTube, when this comes out on YouTube, I got to do this. I'm at the age now where I've got to put these readers on to make sure I get this right. But I want to tell our audience just a little bit more about what each of you do for the company. So you guys, Devon manages Boomtown's marketing team. She does everything from overseeing the paid advertising to taking a look at their digital marketing. She has an MBA from Penn State and certifications in Google Ads, Google Analytics, and Lean Six Sigma. She has lived and worked across the US and internationally. In fact, you guys, she and I worked on a project and she ended up working on my project while she was on vacation. Devin, it was a tropical destination. She was so dedicated. She checked in with me when she was on vacation. So when she says international, I'm now forgetting what country you were visiting. It was kind of remote, wasn't it, Devin?
Yeah, I was in Belize for
Belize.
a birthday trip with all of my close friends, and you never stop the hustle, right?
That's right. Guys, I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons I love inviting women to the podcast that I've actually had the honor of working with and getting to know a little bit. So, you talk about hustle. If you are working and are willing to even work a little bit on vacation, now we will talk about work life balance, ladies. So, I will be looking forward to your advice on that. But if you're hustling just a little bit, you may have to check in with your customers, even in Belize. So, I was pretty impressed with that, I have to say. Now, I'm equally impressed with her sister, Kristin. Kristin is a self-taught graphic designer, certified in Adobe Creative Cloud and content marketing, also from Penn State. Oh, Penn State, Great Valley. She graduated from Westchester University with a majors in communications, focusing on advertising and PR. Now, I met Kristin first because Kristin and I are part of the same wonderful networking group. You guys have heard me mention Business Networking International, or BNI. So we are each in chapters in our respective states. And so getting to know her and working with her a little bit is what led me to working with her sister, who was able to help me on some things for my business. So ladies, that's another thing I want to mention on the podcast today is one of the things I'm very passionate about is making sure that I'm working with women who are helping women and helping businesses. But because you guys are in the industry you're in, right, digital marketing and advertising, you guys can work not only with small and large companies, but you guys can really work from anywhere, can't you? Because your clients will be national and international.
Yeah, correct. That's why that work-life balance is so important.
Exactly. Work-life balance. And we're going to have a whole section about that towards the end of the podcast. Exactly. All right, ladies. So I wanted to definitely give our audience a little bit of background in terms of the roles that you play in the company. So let's start there. We now know what you do for Big, but tell us a little bit more. Jump in, whoever wants to go first, and tell us how you came to the decision of working in your family's company.
Sure. So I'll jump in. So my mom actually started this company. She worked on intranets back before the internet was even existed. So when the internet started in 1993, she started the original version of this business. Then in 2004, my dad joined her to do sales and accounting, and they joined up with Google. They're one of the first Google partners. And when I was in college and right after I graduated college, I realized they had a huge missing piece of their business, which is they didn't have a design program or an offering. They were outsourcing it and getting contractors to do most of their design work. So that's when I decided to start that branch, and I went to night school and got certified and was able to create this the branch of the company that I still run to this day. And then Devin, he was at Penn State and got a job in corporate America, traveling all over the world, and got burnout. And me and her talked during right at the beginning of COVID and decided it's time. Mom and Dad want to retire. Let's do this.
Yeah, so Kristen and I bought the business. We've been running it now successfully for 4 years, and we never looked back. It was the best decision I think we both made.
Yeah.
We made it for different reasons, but ultimately, we could be happier working together and also carrying on the legacy from the family.
Mm-hmm.
I love that part of your story. I really do. The fact that your mom started the business, again, female founded, love that. And that, you saw as role models in your family and with your mom especially, that she obviously loved the business, made it successful. And sometimes as a business owner, I can definitely speak to this as a business owner myself. When you have children and you're thinking about possibly passing that down, one of the things that can be disappointing for parents especially is if they're so excited about their business, they always hope that their kids might be interested, right? But we all know as parents, if you do your job well, your children are going to leave and go on to their lives. And if it crosses into your professional life, that's wonderful, but it's not always something you can expect that your children would love the business as much, as perhaps you did who started it. So you guys both came to the business, realized, okay, mom and dad, you mentioned, was dad working in the business too, ladies?
Yeah, he
Yes.
joined when it started getting bigger. So
Yes.
he took on like sales and accounting and things like that.
Right. Wonderful. So it sounds like your parents made a really good team.
Yeah, they did. So I have experience working with both my parents and with my sister, and they're definitely different.
Yes.
I prefer working with my sister. I think most people would. But yeah, it's much more collaborative between me and Devon.
That's amazing. Now, let me ask you this. How did you guys decide on the roles that you would take on? Obviously, your education, certification, things like that. Did you naturally fall into those positions, or was there conversation about who had more strengths in one area versus another?
Well, knowing the two of us and our strengths, it was pretty obvious. I've always been the data math oriented one, so therefore like marketing and analytics comes easy. And I mean, Kristen's always been extremely creative, always the one coming up with the games, designing the rooms. She's always been that creative personality, so it makes sense. I can't imagine if the roles were more reversed.
I love that. Now, one of the things you mentioned early on when you guys were describing how you got here, you mentioned buying the business. How does that work when you're buying the business from your family? Was that something that was difficult? Did you have to get lawyers involved? What advice could you give
Sure.
to folks who might be interested in taking over their parents' business?
So I think succession planning is super important when it comes to business owners. And the succession planning was never for us to take it over. Our parents had, offers on the table. The reason Kristen and I stepped in and said, we want to purchase it is because we love the life that our parents have been able to lead. And that means the work-life balance, and also just the pride that they felt in themselves being business owners and actually contributing something tangible and helping small businesses grow. So we just didn't want to give that up. So our parents always said, I'm not going to give you a business that's not part of your inheritance, and therefore we had to come up with a deal to buy it. So we chose seller financing. So we pay back our parents through the profits of the business over a certain period of time. And we did have lawyers involved as well, but luckily they were our clients, so they gave us quite a deal. And also, obviously it's an easier negotiation, right? I wouldn't say they were hard on us, but definitely it's a fair deal.
Yes. And I think, honestly, I respect them not giving it to us. I think having ownership, actually tangible ownership in the company, has made me and Devon appreciate it infinitely more, work that much harder, and, want to really make it our own.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I shared this story with Devon when we were first talking about, I think I shared it with both of you when we were first talking about having you on the podcast, because I knew what it was like to work for a family business. I had not considered, purchasing my family's business, but in my case, each and every one of us, I'm the oldest of four, and my father is retired now, but he was a surgeon and had his own practice. So as a solo practitioner, he ran a very tight shop. My mom was the office manager. He was the talent, so to speak, as a general surgeon. So each of us kids in the summertime would work at his office. We thought it was so cool to be able to like be behind the scenes and work as his, when we were older, as his medical technician and things like that. But in that case, I saw that my parents worked really well as a team, but I felt that it was interesting, like when you guys said it was sometimes easier to work with each other as sisters than it was sometimes with your parents, because all of us kids would complain that we thought my dad and my mom were harder on us than they were on the other office staff. It was almost like they could get away with it, right? So, what challenges have you faced, or do you feel like because you grew up seeing this wonderful life that your parents were able to build and helping businesses grow with their online presence, were there some challenges that you saw firsthand when you were working for them, and then later when you transitioned and buying the business yourselves?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing that's great about having a business, and I don't know if we mentioned this, but our company is fully virtual. So that means me and Devin actually don't work in the same location, which also might make our familial bond that much stronger. But that also means, we don't have a brick and mortar. So that work-life balance that you keep mentioning is very present in our lives because our work is in our home with us. We literally can't get away from it. So I think that is the number one thing that we struggle with. And we've definitely had to learn some tips and tricks to, not let work over consume everything. So
Exactly. And that's easy to do when you love what you do, right? I am definitely, I've told the audience knows this about me already. I am a recovering workaholic. I understand 100%. But yes, you guys mentioned virtual because I mentioned you guys are joining us from Pennsylvania. But right, when you don't have that brick and mortar and you really could work 24/7 because you've got everything you need, you got the internet, you got your computer, you got your papers, whatever the case may be, and you can contact your clients at any time. So talking about work-life balance, we will wrap up a little bit more with that. But since you mentioned it, what are maybe some quick tips that you could share with our audience if they're considering working with family? Because then that's the added layer, isn't it? Not only are you working with family, how do you turn that off? I'm thinking about the holidays coming up. That's why I thought it would be great to have you guys on before Thanksgiving, because not only could you work 24/7, and to your point, maybe not being in the same building helps a little bit. But what tips and tricks could you share with our audience today about maybe some things that help you guys outside of the fact that you're 100% remote?
yeah, absolutely. I think that me and Devin communicate a lot about not talking about work. It's like, so we have to make sure, like, all right, this is a sister conversation, this is a work conversation. And a lot of times when we call each other up, that's how we'll start the call. Like, hey, this is a work call. Hey, this is a sister call.
Love it.
And then the other person will be like, okay, now I know what hat to put on. And we really try to compartmentalize it like that between the two of us. And then I think that we're both still learning how to have a work-life balance. I can talk specifically to me personally. My role of the company kind of ebbs and flows with being extremely busy, where I'm working 12 hours plus a day, to not so busy, and I need to focus on sales and growth. And whenever I'm in those not busy times, I feel like that's when you have to prep for the busy times. Like, keep that routine going, keep your meal prepping, getting outside, going for walks, just stepping away
Yes.
from the computer.
Yes, that's exactly right. All the research supports what you're saying, 100%, Kristen. Productivity, ladies, actually goes down, not up, if you're working 24/7. It's the only reason this workaholic finally started to listen, because I did see a difference. We want people to recharge their batteries. And so if you're trying to be creative and innovative, especially think about the pressure. There could be pressure when you're taking over a family's business. If it's been very successful, then you might have this added pressure of going, "Oh my gosh, I want to make sure I continue this business to be as successful as it was. Maybe I could even make it more successful, but nobody wants it to be less successful." So there could be this pressure to constantly be working and, doing more and more and more. So yes, great advice on that. Step away from the computer and nobody gets hurt kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we grew up in a household where our parents worked together. So the business was openly discussed all the time. It's
Ah,
not that this is new for us.
right.
So having that, separation or having the, boomtown be a part of our personal lives doesn't feel different because how we grew up. And it honestly makes it a little bit more relaxed because we can joke about it and we can take it not as seriously when it's not working hours, because me and her used to joke about it to our parents years ago. So it's really like an evolution. And just like, keeping in mind that the relationship with your family is more important.
Well, and I thought that advice about prefacing the phone call, even like before you even start saying anything, this is a work call or this is sister time. I think that's so important. My daughter now is working for my company part-time, and we've already decided, because we talk to each other every day at 8:30 in the morning. So we have one day and one day only. Now it's 2 days, but 3 days are mom and daughter time, and the other 2 days are work time, with the understanding, because you ladies know what it's like. During your personal conversation, you might all of a sudden get this idea for something. And so we will allow ourselves to kind of go there for a second, but we do try to keep that as separate as we can so
Yeah.
that you don't feel like it's always about work. But
Mhm.
I'm suspicious, especially because you guys saw your family with this business your whole life. You grew up this way. And obviously, it didn't scare you off. Obviously, it was exciting enough for you guys to want to take this on, that you probably have a good taste in your mouth, not a bad taste in your mouth, about talking about work during family time. So it sounds like they both really role modeled that for you. Where do you think it goes wrong? Because family businesses, right, in general tend to have this terrible reputation, like I said during the intro, where they advise you, "Oh, no, no, don't work with family, don't work with family." And you guys are breaking barriers with that. So, where, in your experience and just hearing maybe perhaps from others, what is it you think that your family was able to do role model wise to show you how to do it right, outside of maybe separating some conversations and making sure you don't give up the personal?
Sure. I think really trusting each other was the number one thing that we did. And whether that person failed, trusting that they were trying to get better. But one of the major things that I think has been extremely beneficial is, Kristen's always there. And I'm always, you know, shocked and proud and
Mhm.
so excited that she can come into a conversation and offer something totally different than I can, and giving her that space to shine and vice versa. She is a creative genius and I am not. And allowing that space for her, I mean, her ability to translate words into visuals is unparalleled and something that's really hard to teach. And without her, we wouldn't be as successful as a company. So once you get past that growth period and you recognize that skill that your family member has that you don't, and you start leveraging that to help the business grow, and you start kind of being your family's cheerleader, it totally changes. Now you have your own space and you have built trust, and that's how you grow a relationship with family and at the same time grow business together.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think
Love that.
having very separate roles is really important too. I'm never going to be competing with Devin on our job. We work together because we know our roles. And I think when I hear other family businesses falling apart, there's a competition that seems to be there.
Yes, yes. I think you guys really are onto something there, because the competition just is non-existent when you can appreciate the other person's talents, right? And I think just I was just, I think, almost as moved as a Kristen was. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love it if my sister said that about me. But I think when you're a creative person, because I definitely tend to be more on the creative and not so much on the data, I respect the data person so much. And I
Yes.
think the data person, when done right, understands the different kind of stress it is when you're the creative person. So I love that so much. I mean, seriously, what a great testimony to really recognizing your partner, your sister's contribution. And I think that's a wonderful tip for our audience. So, ladies, if you're considering going into a family business, you heard it here first. Really tap into what are your strengths? What do you bring to the business? And then let go of the rest. Make sure that you let your sister, whatever family member it may be that you decide to go into business with, make sure you let them have their role and celebrate those strengths and what they bring to the table. So yeah, I think that's really when things become more and more successful, is when folks are staying in their own lane. You're not leading to that possible traffic accident, right, when things get muddled and it gets more tough. And then on top of that, like you ladies mentioned, separating that out, that work-life balance, but maybe doing it in a way that even if you talk about it with family, it's done in such a way that it doesn't seem like it's work, especially if
Yeah.
you really love what you do. Now, you guys mentioned the roles, the strengths that each of you brings, and how you trust each other. I think that's huge. I think trust and the fact that you bought into a business that you grew up with, that your family loves, and like you said, they gave you a good deal, right? Wouldn't that be so sad, you guys, if your parents did not give you a good deal, or the clients that you hired, that you work with, were not willing to give you a good deal, right? So they had some advantages there for sure. That had to affect you, I would think, in a very positive way, just speculating, just knowing that, your family has the confidence, that they're probably so proud. I'm just presuming they're so proud that their daughters want to do it. But did it also give you guys the confidence knowing this is a business you grew up with and you guys each are bringing different things to the table, that you could do this? Or did it have those moments where you were scared, oh my gosh, what if we don't run it as well as our parents did? What challenges did you maybe face with regards to that?
I think we were raised in a household where neither one of us ever believed that we couldn't do it.
Love
My
it.
dad's famous saying is, remove the word can't from your vocabulary and move forward from there. So that was never in our minds. We were going to succeed no matter what. And that is something that, like, before manifestation or any of that stuff came about, just saying to yourself that you're going to be successful was something that was a part of our childhood and not even related to the business at all. So that was really never a question. We were going to succeed when we decided that we were going to work together. So that really never came up. But that's from my point of view. I don't know, Kristen, what do you think?
Oh, I completely agree. I think our parents instilled a very high level of confidence in both of us, just by teaching us some tips and tricks that I think are much more common now than they were when we were growing up. Like, my dad always was like, go into the bathroom mirror and say something nice to yourself. Like, things like that just really made us feel like, yeah, I'm good. I got this, and that's kind of how me and Devin entered this company. And I mean, and to be fair, I was working here for, I don't know, 7, 8 years before we purchased the company. So I had a much more like understanding of the business as a whole. I, have seen the ups and downs of my parents. I had a much more different perspective of the company. And then I value Devin coming in with her knowledge of, corporate America with me, to kind of just bridge those two things together really nicely.
Yeah, that's an important point right there. Just the fact, Kristen, that you already had that institutional knowledge of what it was like to work there day in and day out. And then that way, when Devon came on the scene, then what a great combination that is, because then you've got the knowledge of working there every day, seeing the business grow and change and get bigger and develop. And then she comes in with her background on more of the data side and being able to contribute in that way.
Yeah.
So looking back on your journey together, especially these past 4 years, and I'm correct in that, right? That it's been about 4 years since you purchased the business and have been running
Yes.
it on your own. Okay.
Correct.
So are there ways that you believe perhaps that working together in this way has strengthened your relationship as sisters?
We talk every day, multiple times a day. Number one. So definitely do that. And then I think it makes us, well, like, I mean, like you just said, you would love your sister to compliment you the way Devon just complimented me. Like, so like I get to hear stuff that I don't think a lot of other siblings get to hear from their siblings to each other all the time. We're constantly giving each other praise, and we also hold each other accountable. But there's no one I respect more than my sister. So
I love that. I love
yeah.
that. Being a sister myself, I mentioned I'm the oldest. I have two wonderful sisters and a brother, and we try to include him often so he doesn't feel left out, right? But if you're blessed with sisters, whether it's your sisters of origin or girlfriends that can become sisters, that circle of support, that power that of women helping women, I think is just such a beautiful thing. And I think you mentioned something I hadn't thought of before. Um, Seeing your sister professionally. I've had
Mhm.
the privilege of seeing my sisters in their element, whether they are working, whether they're overseeing a charity or an event, and when I've had the opportunity to do that, it just shows your sister in a completely different light. So I would think, just from what you had mentioned, Kristin, that has to be pretty amazing to see each other in that professional way.
Mhm.
I've had the privilege of having my sisters attend some of my events, whether I'm speaking or running a workshop or something like that, and they had mentioned that to me, that it was really kind of unique and amazing to be able to see your sister in that light. So, yeah, I think that's wonderful. I think that's very inspiring to our audience, especially with what you guys mentioned also about your family raising you to believe that, oh, it was going to happen. Like there was just no question that it was going to be successful, that in some way it was going to work out just fine, that everything was going to be awesome. Even with the ups and downs in business, right? If you come from that abundance mindset, and we talk about that a lot on this podcast, just that power of believing that everything is working out the way it should. I've mentioned this in other episodes, but just to remind our audience, even with the ups and downs of business and the ebbs and flows, if you really believe that things are working out in the way it's supposed to, then you're reminded that in some cases, businesses have pivoted. They're not changing the business entirely. They're not closing the business, but sometimes they'll pivot in a slightly different way based on their experiences. And sometimes when things haven't worked out exactly the way you think it was supposed to, but it works out this other way instead, it can actually increase your profits, increase your success, because you might be doing something a little differently. And I can imagine, ladies, in your industry, right, when you're talking about advertising and digital marketing and the like, aren't there times where you really just have to be on the cutting edge, or being proactive and trying to see what those trends would be? Could you speak to that? Because that was another thing I thought was very unique about your story is, I always try to encourage women to think outside the box a little bit. And you're in an industry that does not tend to be female dominated all the time. So, as a female founded business, and now you ladies at the helm, could you talk a little bit about that, about what it's like to be in the digital media space?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our core values here is experimentation. So we are always trying new things. And if you're not failing once a week, once a month, like, are you even trying to innovate? So you
Mm-hmm.
have to become comfortable with that. So we try to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations and implement different strategies in order to succeed, because there's nothing stagnant when it comes to digital marketing or marketing in general or design. It is constantly evolving. So definitely that is like a core value here. When it comes to like bringing that into a setting with maybe more of a male dominated industry, it's just about really speaking confidently to it and having those experiments to back you up. No one's going to put their faith in you if they don't think that you're worth it. So you have to show them that you're worth it by proving that you've done it before, whether that's on your own business or on somebody else's business. Like coming with those hard numbers and that data is a big reason that we've been successful. So sticking with our core of experimentation, cutting edge, trying new technologies. We're investing a lot in AI tools, constantly seeing what's going to work and what's not going to work, while also being frugally minded to not overspend, our client's budget in anything that's not going to work. So typically we have a couple of clients that allow us to experiment, want that kind of service, and then we use those results to influence strategy for everybody else.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. What would you add to that, Kristin, in terms of, some of our listeners maybe considering this industry where perhaps they hadn't considered it before? Are there any other unique challenges that they may face?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, having worked in this industry for about a decade, that I definitely noticed how much I had to prove myself by my gender and age at the start, versus now that I'm in my 30s and more established. I think that was something that I didn't even really think about until, recently, and I'm reflecting back on, working at this company for 10 years now. I think innovation has changed drastically. I think when you're a designer, you have to be constantly looking at what's coming up. You don't want someone to look at a new design and say that looks outdated. So, that's something that I have to keep an eye on all the time and make sure that I'm, sticking with trends, making sure, my current clients' websites, can't be improved, constantly reminding people, hey, it's been 4 or 6 years. Let's get a new site out there so you look like you're still modern and you're still on top of the trends as well.
Exactly. And I think that many times in those spaces that tend to be more male dominated, we forget that it really comes down to those results you were talking about. When people see that bringing in different viewpoints, or not making or being quick to make judgments based on someone's gender or their age, and instead thinking about the pluses, right? Because there's always pluses and minuses to everything. When I first started in my career, would get so upset when people would think I was younger than I was.
Yeah.
Now at 58, I don't think I'd be that upset if they thought I was younger. I don't know why I was so offended at first, right? But it's because I equated young with being inexperienced, which
Yes.
then I thought would, affect someone's ability to see me as the manager, let's say. So thinking along those lines, many of our listeners are hardworking career women, all ages. Some are just starting out in the workforce. Some may just need a little inspiration because they've been in the trenches and they're just like, others might be looking at retirement and, considering starting a passion business on the side and turning that into a business they could hand down perhaps to family. So what advice, as we start to wrap up, and then I want to ask a couple more specific questions about your business and where our listeners can find you. But before we get to all of that, what advice do you have for our hardworking career gals that are listening in terms of taking that leap of faith? You guys mentioned, that it never occurred to you that you wouldn't be successful. And I think that's such a powerful place to be. But what other advice could you give someone who is maybe considering doing something like this? Maybe they never thought about the family business before.
Start now. Don't wait. Jump in with both feet and have small goals and work to achieve those goals. It has so many benefits. So if you do take that leap, quit your job, start your business, do your passion, whatever drives you, just remind yourself every day how much better life is being a business owner. I've never met a business owner that regretted it. So, recently I've
Love
even
that.
talked my husband into starting his own business. It took 2 years, a lot of effort, a lot of support. And after only 3 months, he's already making more money than he was in industry, and he'll never look back. I've never seen him happier. So
Wow.
honestly, it took him 2 years to take that first step and
Hmm.
2 months to be successful. And that can
Terrific.
happen for every one of you.
Love
Agreed.
that. Love that. Kristen, do you agree?
Fully agree. I also was part of that effort to get my brother-in-law to start his company.
It was a family effort.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
No, I definitely think if you haven't gotten your feet wet in corporate America, you don't understand how much value comes from being your own boss. Um, so all I can say is if you have the idea and you have the drive, just like Devin said, jump in with both feet.
Stop making someone else rich.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Well, because you guys are a great example of how you saw your parents loving what they were doing. They were business owners. It wasn't that typical story you hear about where the parents are coming home exhausted. The kids never see their parents. Their parents are so stressed out all the time. You guys have had the opposite experience where this is why people go into business because they can be even more successful. So, yes, do people need to have some information at their fingertips so they can make an informed decision. But, what is that saying about the fact that, even if you're on the right track, you can get run over if you just lay there. Yes. I mean, you got to do something. You have to move forward, right? And so I love that advice. Jump in with both feet. Hopefully, you will have the same story to share that Devin's husband has 2 years to convince him, 2 months, and he's already more successful than he was working for someone else, making them the money. Um, I agree, ladies. Thank you so much for reminding us of that. I absolutely love being a business owner, and especially for hardworking career women that are maybe wearing multiple hats. They could be moms, they could be caregivers, they might have 2 or 3 furry children. We consider our 2 dogs to be our furry children, but we're so busy that sometimes we forget the beauty of being a business owner is you are in control of your day. You really are. Now, do your clients and customers sometimes control a part of that? Of course they do, but you really get to control when you work, how hard you work, what you decide to do with the business. And, with that control comes a lot of freedom. So thank you guys for sharing that because we so often hear just the horror stories out there. And I know we just celebrated Halloween not too long ago, but I wanted this to be an inspiration, right? A motivation instead of something that would scare people off before they even give themselves a chance. We're really big on this show about dreaming big. So thank you guys for that. All right. As we wrap up, tell us a little bit more about next steps for you and for your business. What are the goals and your future goals for Boomtown? Are there any exciting projects or directions that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, so since Chris and I took over the company with our other business partner, James, we have doubled the business size, both in top and bottom
Wow.
line growth. So we are at the stage where we might need some middle managers, which is something we've never really successfully done here. So we're almost as big as the business has ever been. So that will be a big challenge that we're going to face in the next year or two as we start to maintain quality while keeping up with that aggressive growth targets that we've been able to achieve, which is, something that we've never had to deal with. So that's going to be exciting, fun challenge for us. The other thing that we're dealing with in our industry is AI. I always think new technology is an opportunity. So how are we going to apply it? How are we going to improve our business processes? How are we going to incorporate that into what we do? We've already redone all of our processes and procedures to incorporate that as best we can, and able to deliver better products to our clients rather than shy away from it. So I think if you resist change, you can't move forward. So one of those is where we're looking to grow, incorporating AI, being more efficient, allowing us to reduce cost and grow in a space where maybe things are becoming more costly for small business owners and offering the same solutions at a lower price.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Exactly. And notice when Devin was talking about, cutting edge and technology and expansion and the fact that they've doubled the size of the business, how exciting is that? And so it's great for business, but their attitude is again that enthusiasm and excitement for this new chapter, not being stressed out, although I'm sure there's those stressful days, but not being afraid. Sometimes people are actually, they say they want that success, right, Devin? Right, Kristen? And then they get it and they're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know about all that. So instead, you're really seeing it for the blessing it is that when you double the size of your company, your growth, it's an exciting new chapter for your business. And then, yes, and then things like AI, how exciting is that, especially in your space?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Kristen, what would you add to that?
Let's see. I think with the advent of AI and how it's really ingraining itself into all of these aspects of the digital sphere, I think we're only going to see even more innovative designs, features, ways to connect with other people. I'm working right now on what I'm calling digital business cards. So basically, you can have, instead of having a paper card, you just put your phone to somebody else's phone, get their contact information right away from a QR code, or whatever it is the call to action they want you to do is. So I'm working on that for my networking partner friends.
That's
um,
great.
yeah. So I mean, I think with technology, as Devin said, if you don't be afraid of it, embrace it, and see how you can use it to improve, whatever area of business you're in.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's right. We're always scared of change at first. And of course, there's ways to, I guess, when, if you're not careful, sure, there's ways to abuse certain things. But I still remember when grammar check, especially as a former educator, when grammar check and spell check first came on the scene. Oh my goodness. Now, I was teaching history at the time, but those English teachers, I thought they were going to lose their mind because they thought that the computer would do all the writing for them. And I know we have things like Chat GPT, but you guys, take the advice of these ladies in this space. Don't be afraid of change or technology. There's ways to use it as a tool without all of us, becoming what the Terminator age where the robots have taken over the right. So there's a little middle ground, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, in addition to that, I had mentioned in the intro a little bit about your company and all the variety of services that you guys provide. I mentioned that you guys work with companies big and small in helping them build their online presence. Was there anything else about some of the services you guys provide that you'd like the audience to know about?
Sure. One of the best things we do is website design and development. So if you guys are looking to upgrade your presence, it starts with a really good foundation. So invest in the house, invest in the foundation, build a really user-friendly, clean website that projects your brand. And if you're curious about how to translate your brand into imagery or design, Kristen's here for you.
Take it away, Kristen. What could you say about that?
Thanks,
Because you may not
Deb.
know, we just did a building your brand workshop not too long ago. So, yeah, our audience is very familiar with how important it is. So, could you speak to that and what you could do to help folks?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think your brand is one of the most important things, especially on the web. You want to make sure everything is, coordinates with each other. I also think that part of that brand is good content and making sure your message is unique to you and has a good foundation of, how do I get people to find me? Devin said you start with a good foundation. So that's me. I'll build the house, but I'm working directly with Devin to make sure that the marketing, the branding, how people are viewing and interacting with the website, how people are navigating the space makes sense. And that's why another reason we're a really good team and work well together, because I really value what she brings to a website, which is the marketing aspect and the content aspect to make sure, like I said, that content and the brand go hand in hand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is so important, as Kristin pointed out, to really think about your online presence in a variety of ways, a variety of platforms. And is it really projecting that image that you're hoping to project? We talk about that on this podcast all the time, that I want our listeners to feel empowered, to feel motivated, and to make sure they're representing themselves as that powerful professional woman that I know they want to be. Because listen, they're not going to be listening to an episode about any of this stuff unless they're interested in their own professional and personal growth. So, ladies, I think you're definitely able to help us think of things a little differently today, especially when it comes to business, when it comes to being in this type of business. So, tell our audience where they can find out more about you and your company.
Sure, you can find us at our website, boomtownig.com. We're also on LinkedIn. We do have other social media presence, which I'm sure we'll link below, but those are the two best places to find us.
Awesome. Yeah, a website can just share so much about the company and their mission, and LinkedIn, of course, a great resource as well. So, yes, listeners, I am going to make sure that we have all the links so that you can find out more about both of these wonderful ladies and the wonderful work that they do on behalf of businesses across the country and even internationally. Any last words, ladies, before we wrap up with our motto on the podcast? Any other last little nuggets of inspiration about working together as a family or being a woman in business in general?
I think go back to what we said earlier, jump in. We want way more female business leaders out there. We want to interact with you. Don't be afraid to make that leap. I know that me and Devon grew up with this, it instilled in us, but it was scary to do it. We definitely had our fears and our trepidations to if we would succeed. I know that we always knew we would succeed at something. That doesn't necessarily mean it was this. So, it was something that we definitely worked really hard for and are still working incredibly hard for. And I think that if you have any idea, be the entrepreneur that starts that idea, and we fully support you.
That's right. You're not alone out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have the opportunity to work with a family member, try. It is wonderful for both your professional and personal relationships. Honestly, don't understand why people are so afraid of it. Kristin and I do fight. We're not these perfect role model siblings up here, we promise you. But
Good.
as long as that fight comes with respect, it's not going to hold you back. It's not going to ruin your family relationship as long as you both go into it with the same goals and expectations and set the stage for what you're really looking for.
And always, if you really did say something mean, apologize. Just fall on the sword. Don't be the person that holds a grudge in the family business world. Just say, you know what, that was my bad. and move on.
Yes,
What's wrong with a good apology?
Definitely. I don't think I learned how to apologize until we worked together.
See, you guys, this could actually strengthen your family's relationship instead of ruin it. Well, and plus, you guys are true partners also, right? I think that's one thing I may have forgotten to mention. It might have been a different dynamic. It's if, say, Kristin was the CEO and she hired Devon to come in some other smaller role, but you guys are true partners when you bought the business. Is that correct, ladies? I'm not presuming that.
Correct.
Right. So if you're partners, then you're already on that equal playing field and you're in it together, which I think is, you get to kind of feel like you're really working with each other instead of for each other, right?
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Yeah, she is my teammate.
That's right. Sink or swim, you're in it together.
Exactly.
Definitely. And I think just one last thing, if you want to edit this into some other portion of it. But, one last thing is, because we did work for our parents at some point, we saw how that relationship can change, how an employee or someone who works for us would approach us. So we always are very conscious of being on the same page, dealing with our problems with each other and never bringing other people into them, because that is, a learning from a family business where the number one thing are people get annoyed being brought in as a third party to some type of fight or argument or discussion. So you really keeping in mind that the employees didn't sign up for the family, they signed up for the business.
Yeah.
And that's a super
Exactly.
important thing to keep in mind as you grow and layer on employees to your family business. You know, they're in the company, not in the family, and keep it that way.
Love that. Yeah, that's great advice. That's right. They signed up for the business. So the family drama just needs to kind of be that behind the scenes, we'll talk later
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
right. Well, thank you, ladies. I really do appreciate all your time today. Your story really is an inspiring one. We appreciate you so much sharing that with our audience. And so I'm going to keep you right here in the studio as I close things out. And the audience knows what I'm getting ready to say, just to remind us all that we do have quite a bit of control and power on how we run our lives and how we run our days. So I always end our episodes with our Shop Talk motto, and it goes like this. Don't forget, if you're not having a fantastic day, you've got the power to make it one. Thank you, ladies, again for tuning in. I will see you next week right here on the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast.
Bye, everyone.
I know our episode is over, but this is just the beginning. If you're ready to take action but don't know where to start, just head over to drdonshoptalk.com for lots of free resources, ways to work together, and for even more. Subscribe to the Dr. Dawn Shop Talk YouTube channel. Remember, ladies, you don't have to take this journey alone. I've got you covered. Till next time.